Like, as much as I love statistics, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. You still have to watch the game and understand the game on an intuitive level to know the whole story.
They are young. They earn a lot of money. And they are famous all around the globe for playing a game. This is the official podcast of a professional esports team. These are the Esports Rockstars. Welcome to Esports Rockstars, the official podcast of Team ROCCAT, which not only discusses esports but also takes a closer look to the personalities behind the business. My name is Fred, I'm ROCCAT's multimedia producer. With me is ROCCAT's head of social media, Tien.
Hello.
Hi there. And without further ado, let's get to the star guest of today's episode. He is the assistant coach of Team ROCCAT. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Cody Gerard.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
Not too much. What about you guys?
Is that your usual time you're awake, or is it
I'm usually up around 10 because I'm watching like LCK and LPL.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And
so this is about an hour later.
It's 11:20 a.m.
Yep. So today I've been up for about an hour.
We're sitting in Hamburg in ROCCAT's podcast cave, and you are calling from Berlin, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Nice. We start every show with 10 short questions to our guest, and we wanted to do it with you now. So prepare. Here's question number 1. Your favorite food and drink?
Favorite food, definitely a cheeseburger. Favorite drink, plain old water. As bland as that may seem. I don't do soda very much.
What's your favorite League of Legends champion?
Aurelia. I was an Aurelia main the first 3+ years I played this game, and I've been maining her again since the rework too.
You can morph into one LoL champion in real life. Which one do you choose and why?
Oh God, that's a really tough one. Is the transformation permanent?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay, so it can't... So
I want to have it
be,
permanent, so you have to think about it really good.
So it can't be one of those wacky alien type ones. It has
Why not?
It has to be a human champion. I don't want to be like Cho'Gath forever or something. I'm just going to say Jarvan because he's a perfectly regular person, except he's also a prince. So I get to be a prince for the rest of my life.
Okay, and if you
Nice.
if you can transform into one just for one day, just for fun?
Just for fun? Well, then it's Cho'Gath, and then I just eat everything and see how big I can get.
Oh.
Cool. What's your favorite game of all time?
Mass Effect 2.
Wow, I'm surprised. Most of the people that we interviewed were just like, yeah, lol and nothing else. Cool.
I mean, I love LoL, and it's pretty much... I mean, it's so much of what I play and what I do for my life, obviously, but... I mean, Mass Effect 2 will always hold, a special place in my heart because, I'm a writer in my time that isn't spent working with ROCCAT or playing League, and I'm a science fiction junkie, and kind of
Nice.
as someone who's a science fiction junkie and a video game lover, Mass Effect 2 was kind of the perfect game to ever exist for me.
Cool.
So you and Fred should connect.
Yeah.
Because Fred has like a huge German podcast about science fiction.
I'm a huge science fiction fan too, but I never played Mass Effect 2. But I know that you can sleep.
How?
But I know
That's one of the best games of like the last 20 years.
But it's famous for the fact that you can sleep with everyone in that game, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I see the connection there.
Yeah.
Maybe you can make like a special episode.
Yeah.
Like English science fiction nerds connected with German science fiction nerds.
I'm looking forward for that. Cody, next question. What's your favorite music?
I mean, I have a very eclectic taste in music. So, in terms of modern music, I like a lot of EDM music and house music. And in terms of older stuff, I'm a pretty big classic rock fan.
Cool.
Okay.
What do you love the most about being a professional esports coach? About a professional.
I mean, probably the fact that I just get to, I can just throw myself at this full time. I never feel at all like I'm, wasting my time doing this. And I feel like there's a purpose to, spending all my time watching, playing, reading about, listening to whatever with regards to this game. And it's a passion and it's something I get to do with a real purpose now.
And now, please be honest. What do you really hate about being an esports professional? Is there anything?
Well, I mean, yeah, at times it becomes your job, and like any job, it gets frustrating, it gets stressful. There are times that, as passionate and as much as I love it, it's like, I really don't want to do this, or I really don't want to deal with this. Like, I remember last year, over the summer when we were scouting different players, right? One of the things I had to do was scout a particular player who played for Jin Air.
Okay.
And that was the most boring thing I've ever had to do, was watch about 10 Jin Air games. I wanted to gouge my own eyes out by the end of it. Because they played nothing but, 40-minute plus games with like one kill every 5 minutes.
And you couldn't skip like 10 minutes.
Well, I would be going through it like 5 seconds at a time, but it still took me, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours to do properly.
So to be honest, did you watch them all, or did you just told Freddy that you watched them all?
I watched them all, much to my regret.
Okay, we stick to that story. Okay.
We talk later.
When you are preparing for a match, do you have any rituals?
I chew gum. It's something that started in high school when I played baseball. And it sort of became good luck, and I started chewing gum before baseball games, before basketball games, during them, etc., and it's just stuck.
Okay.
You are stranded on a lonely island. What are your 3 personal items you take with you?
Okay, well, I gotta bring 3 things that can communicate. I gotta figure out 3 things. Like, I'm assuming there's no cell service.
Nothing.
There's nothing. So I have to figure out something that I can MacGyver together a communication system with.
So what are those 3 things?
Well, I know I'm not going to survive very long on that island, so I got to get off it. So I'm going to bring a toolkit, some wires, and I'm going to say a knife, because I do need to find food until I can figure out how to communicate.
Or if everything fails, you can kill yourself with it.
That's morbid.
Yeah. Good choice,
I just know that I'm not going to survive long enough on that island, so I have to get off of it. And I certainly don't trust myself to build a boat.
I'm not sure if we can accept toolkit, because it's a bunch of items. It's not one item, but okay. And
you get the idea. I want to bring something that I can build with.
And quick question number 10, and probably the most important one: which key is best for Flash, D or F?
D.
Nice. We need to see how many people choose D and how many
people
choose F.
We have to make a statistic.
Yeah, and then based on that, see their performance.
Cody, let's talk about you and your person. How did you become Team ROCCAT's assistant coach?
Okay, well, I mean, if it's not obvious from how I sound, I'm an American. I was born and raised in New York City. Still live there when I'm not at university, which is what I do when I'm not working in esports.
The interesting part is, in which part of New York City do you live?
I grew up in Manhattan, Upper West Side.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know. I'm a lucky person.
Yeah, and probably rich too.
Yeah. That's a fact. That's just a fact.
Okay, keep going.
But I currently go to university in Pennsylvania. But obviously, I'm not doing that right now. My focus is elsewhere.
What do you study?
I'm actually, as weird as a juxtaposition as this is for someone who does league, I'm an English major. I focus on writing.
What kind of writing? Like script writing or?
I want to be a novelist or a script writer actually, so screenwriter.
Interesting.
Either or. Like my goal before I fell into all this was to work in the publishing industry while I tried to get published myself.
Did you ever publish something?
No, never published anything. I did have I have had a few articles. I mean, published in places like before I worked for ROCCAT. I wrote for LOL King for a time, and I've worked with a couple local New York newspapers. So as part of an internship I did while I was in high school.
Oh, cool. Really cool. So you could write like the first esports
novel.
novel.
First, an epic story.
Like I said, I'm a science fiction guy. So a lot of what I write is sci-fi or fantasy.
Yeah, but you could do like a sci-fi esports type of thing.
Aliens on a spaceship playing like a galactic esports league sounds awesome.
Hey, we get 10% for that idea, okay, if you ever do it.
And now you have proof too, documented on the internet for all eternity.
And if they make a movie out of it, it goes up to 50. All right, let's keep going.
I'm not signing that contract.
It's signed and delivered. Okay,
go
ahead.
So how did you get into the world of esports?
I mean, essentially, I met and impressed the right people at first. I met somebody who had connections in European esports. They eventually got a job and then wanted me to be hired as their assistant, which I was.
Can you be more specific?
If you know Leviathan, the coach of Alliance, during season 4.
Yeah.
That was the first person I worked with, the person who got me my first job working as his assistant for Bisconia Esports, and eventually he was fired, but I stayed on.
So,
took his
how
old
did you
position.
get in contact with him? Like, did you wrote him? Did you slide into his DMs on Twitter?
I mean, it was Twitter. He needed some help playtesting some stuff, and I offered to help. And then I stuck around and asked him some questions afterwards, and apparently the discussion impressed him enough to want to, sort of take me under his wing for a bit. And I mean, we didn't end on the best of notes. I don't think either of us particularly liked each other by the end.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, because like I said, he was fired and I stayed on and took his old position, which was the job that he had gotten me.
Oh, so you were the head coach?
Well, I was the head analyst.
Head analyst. But you took over his job. He was the coach, right?
No, he was the head analyst, assistant coach, whatever.
Was that the Reckless lineup or?
No, that was Bisconia Esports. This was in the LVP.
Oh, okay. Oh, you said you were with him when he was with Alliance.
No, I said that he was. I said that I was just saying that, like, who he is. He was the coach of Alliance during season 4.
Also Gambit, right?
Yes, later Gambit. Yeah. But I was with him when in the LVP.
Okay.
And I mean, ended up winning an LVP championship that year, undefeated, 8-2-0.
So you ended up at ROCCAT. So also your position changed within ROCCAT. So what was your first job, and how did you end up in Berlin? Because it was a remote job at first, right?
Yeah, well, my first job back in summer of last year was I did scouting of whoever our opponents were for that week. So I'd make spreadsheets with stats, with analysis of each player, of teams' patterns and tendencies, with recommendations for the draft, etc.
Is that one second? Is that a system you worked out, or is that something like Freddie gave to you? Like, it was Grabs, right, back then?
Yeah, it was Grabs back then, but it was a combination of both. The first week I did it my way, and then Grabs gave me a few adjustments that I could make, and I made those. And that was sort of my role. within the team for summer split was just making those reports, and I would fire them off to Grabs and Freddie, and they would use them however they saw fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the off season, pretty much right away, I was told that I was going to have a bigger job in the team next split.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with the team, constructing the roster, scouting players, talking about, working with Freddie to sort of figure out the kind of team and players that we wanted to have, the style that we wanted, etc. And then pretty much from early in the spring split onwards, I was, even though I was remote, I was watching every scrim. I was talking with Freddie about what I was seeing, ways I thought we could improve. I was still doing the same scouting stuff, still am to some degree. Like that's still something that I'm pretty good at, as I've been doing it for a while. And then I don't know exactly when it first became clear that, we all wanted me to be here for summer split, but it must have been at latest halfway through spring.
Okay.
And from that point onwards, it was just a matter of, keep doing what you're doing and we'll get you out here. And that's ultimately what happened.
And then we kind of promoted you to assistant coach.
Yeah, it's at this point, like I do still do the same jobs that I did as head analyst, but also I'm straddling the line more with assistant coach, like some different responsibilities, some more, personal responsibilities in terms of working with the players and stuff.
Okay.
Talking more directly with them, working with more than just numbers and scouting and stats and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So let's go back during the off season. So you said you scouted the players.
Yeah.
So which player on the current roster was the one you wanted the most? Like you were like sure that this guy will elevate this team to like a good level.
Honestly, that was Hikyu.
Hikyu.
From the first time that we played NIP in summer split, I remember going through the numbers before I watched any VODs, right? And being like, this doesn't make any sense, because the narrative around Hikyu was that he was this really shitty player, that he'd been relegated, that NIP was a terrible team and he was a terrible player. And then I saw the numbers, and then I watched the VODs, and I was like, this guy's actually really good. Just nobody sees it because he's never really been surrounded by anything.
Yeah. You sound like you're playing Moneyball. Is it that? Like
I mean, there was a little bit of Moneyball involved. Absolutely, we knew that we weren't going to be able to, go after any big star players, but we also knew pretty much from day one, like there's so much talent out there that you can make a winning team pretty much no matter what your budget is, within reason, obviously.
So Hikyu impressed you just based on the statistics already, right? Like
just from the stats and then from the VODs, I pretty much knew right away that he was a far better player than I think most people thought that he was.
And it kind of showed in last spring split, right? He was
and even
with the most damage per minute, but also the lowest resources, right?
Yeah, he was third or fourth in like damage percentage and DPM, but hardly any resources. And he's been even more impressive the first couple of weeks this split as well, I think.
He shows more consistency.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, just working with him personally, his confidence is up. And I think that's a huge thing for him, is that when his confidence is high, that's really, that really comes through in his play.
And you said the first job you did for us was to scout the opponents?
Yes.
So when did you start to watch like other leagues, or is that something that you always have to do besides that?
Oh, that's something that you always have to do. I mean, you can't. I don't think you can say that you're doing your job right if you're, especially with the work that I do, if you're not constantly watching other regions. I mean, everything. There's something to be learned from every league, you know, from the European national leagues to the wild card regions to, you know, China and Korea.
Okay, so do you watch every league?
I mean, no, I'm a human being. I don't have one of those time turners from Harry Potter or something, but
why not?
or a TARDIS.
Okay, so what leagues do you focus on?
LPL, LCK. LPL and LCK are obviously the primary two. Because I'm an American, I've always watched plenty of NALCS just because the time zones were easiest. I mean, and still is to some degree when I'm over here in Europe.
Yeah.
Actually, the time zones are so much nicer over here because you can watch LCK in the morning and LPL in the morning, whereas I'd have to go and watch the VODs after I woke up in NA. But I mean, I'm always checking back in LVP because, like, for example, LVP always pulls out these weird picks, especially, honestly, the place I think you see the most is top lane.
Can you explain LVP? Because I think most listeners don't know what LVP is.
The LVP is the Spanish National League. And so it's, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. Of your team is 3/5 Spanish players at least.
So it's like a national league.
Yeah, it's one of the national leagues.
It's the only national league you watch?
I mean, I occasionally will check other leagues, and obviously I watched a lot of EU Masters as well.
But that's something new that didn't exist last year. So.
But that didn't exist before, yeah. I remember last year I watched some of the German league as well.
But not that good, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, when I hear about a good match or something interesting, I'll watch pretty much any league, whether it's Turkey or Russia or Taiwan. You know, if there's something interesting that shows up, like when OPL was playing, when nobody else was, and they were starting to bring out all the weird picks, I was making sure I checked out those games.
So when you watch what? Do you look at the result beforehand or afterwards? Because it can influence your look at the game or not.
I mean, I definitely usually know the result because I'm watching often several days later, especially if I'm reviewing EU VODs. Like, you know, for example, this week we play Giants, and like I watch most EU games live anyways, or I hear about the result from somebody saying something about the game, or just clicking through Reddit or whatever it is.
So there's also the new Vietnamese league, right?
Yeah.
Do you watch that?
No, I haven't really watched much of that, to be honest.
But don't they have like really crazy picks? They always show it in words. Or not?
I mean, yeah, they have some, but also, I mean, honestly, I don't think that the stream for it is particularly easy to access from like I don't even know where I'd find the stream for it, to be honest.
It's on YouTube. They have the Vietnamese esports channel. You should.
I did not know that, actually.
It's huge. It has like 1 million subscribers. You should. Okay, you learned something in this podcast, man.
I'll have to check that out then. Yeah.
Yeah. So what also interests me is like, how did you balance out this kind of work, which sounds like it needs a lot of time, with your study?
With a lot of stress is the answer there, really. Okay. Like, my average day when I was in university would look like something like this. Wake up, watch a little bit of Korea, watch the beginning of scrims, go to class, come back, watch more scrims if they were still going on. If not, watch VODs.
Did you ever skip classes or just don't finish a thing for the university because you had to watch a LoL game? Probably, right?
I've been late to classes before because I was watching one of our games. Like, do you remember the Vitality game from last split that we lost on the back door that was like 60-something minutes?
So you watched it live?
I watched it live, and I was going to be late to class, and I had my phone, and I was literally walking to class looking at my phone.
Okay.
And the game ended right as I walked into the classroom.
So did you explain to him why you were late?
No, I just sort of slinked quietly into the back.
Okay. That's interesting.
I didn't really like that professor.
Did your classmates and your professors know what you do? Or were you like a secret superhero?
I mean, my friends know what I do, but I mean, I didn't walk around shouting it from the rooftops. No.
Okay, cool. Do you actually have a gaming tag? Because like everyone who works in esports has like a gamer tag.
Yeah. I mean, my gamer tag is Avin, AVIN.
Oh, okay.
But I don't particularly like going by it. It's sort of a relic of a part of my life that I just don't really care much for anymore. I've never bothered.
Talk about it. Where does this name come from?
But I mean, it's not like.
Is it still safe for work?
Oh yeah, it's still fine. Like if I really hated it, I would change it. I'm just kind of ambivalent towards it. But
I mean, the explanation is the explanation safe for work.
I mean, yeah, the explanation perfectly safe for work.
Then go ahead.
All it was I played the first PC game I ever played was a game called Star Wars: The Old Republic, not Knights of the Old Republic, which is a great game, but with Star Wars: The Old Republic. And my old screen name was a really crappy, embarrassing screen name, and I was like, this is a terrible screen name and not a very good name for a character at all. And so me and a couple friends sat down and started brainstorming possible new names. And
just for you or for the whole group?
Just for me.
Really?
Yeah.
So your original nickname was Disembarrassing.
What was it?
What was it? Come on.
Okay. It was C Biggs because my initials are CBG.
Okay. It's not that bad.
Ugh, I hate it. It sounds so egotistical.
But now you have to explain what Avon means.
Nothing. It was just a name. It was just a random name that I thought sounded good.
That sounds cool.
A typical nickname. Yeah.
Okay.
Just some random letters that sound cool.
Yeah, like we were just coming up with random, interesting sounding names, and somebody said that. I was like, I like that. Let's use it.
Cool.
So, for how long have you been in Berlin now?
Since the 7th, so 21 days, so 3 weeks now.
So, what surprised you the most since like being on location? Is there something that surprised you about the players?
Surprised in terms of like the city, or in terms of like my work?
Your work, but different aspects. Let's just start with player. What surprised you the most about the players when you arrived on location?
I mean, I'm not honestly sure if anything was particularly a surprise. I think the only thing that surprised me was how quickly I got frustrated some of the time, because usually I'm not a very easily frustrated person, but there have been times that have really tried my patience for certain. And I think that happens to everybody in this industry. Like it's such a high intensity work environment that it's gonna trigger things no matter what you do, no matter who you are. And especially someone who's kind of new and inexperienced to all of it like me. I haven't dealt with a lot of it before, so
is it your first time on location with players?
Yeah, first time on location, yes.
And regarding the whole work environment or your own work, what surprised you most there? And also like I guess behind the scenes at the Riot Studio, etc.
I mean, what surprised me the most in terms of my own work environment was, it's still just how packed every day really is. Like I feel like I get home and I'm just completely mentally beat at the end of every day. Like I don't want to touch League. I don't want to think about League. I mean, sometimes I have to. Okay. It's like, and I mean, as much as I love what I do, it's like at the end of the day, I'm just so mentally exhausted.
Okay, thanks for that rundown. So I can hear out a little bit that your sports background was baseball.
Yeah, baseball, basketball, mostly.
Okay, and also I have the feeling your analytics is really based on baseball, because you probably know the baseball is a really statistical game, especially
sabermetrics.
Especially after the Moneyball incident, I guess that a lot more people look at the numbers.
What was the Moneyball incident? Can you say that in some?
It wasn't an incident, but you explain it, Cody.
So there's a baseball team called the Oakland Athletics, right? And they're a really, really small budget team. You know, like they pay as much to their entire payroll as like the top 2 or 3 players on the New York Yankees combined at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they paid like $50 million, and the top 3 players on the Yankees made that much on their own, just combined. And so, except for the part where the A's had a ton of success in the early 2000s. And how they had that success was by sort of eschewing traditional baseball rationale and looking at the numbers, finding people who were undervalued or traits that were undervalued in players for whatever reason. So, for example, one guy they found was a relief pitcher named Chad Bradford, who was a pretty good pitcher, but people discounted him because he threw funny. You know, he had a weird pitching motion.
Okay.
Another guy, his name was Scott Hatteberg, and what he was really good at was he was really good at having these quality at-bats. He worked a lot of walks. He hit a lot of balls hard, even if he didn't. So he got on base a lot, even if it wasn't in particularly spectacular fashion. And so they found these undervalued traits, and they had a lot of success despite having a really, really small budget. Mm-hmm. And the way that they found these traits was through advanced analytics, through numbers.
If you're curious about it, you should watch the movie. There's also there's a book that the movie was based on by Michael Lewis. And would you recommend it? I never read it.
100% would recommend it to anyone who's interested in statistics.
Yeah, but the movie is actually really good as well with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, the movie's great.
You should watch it. It's with
Moneyball.
Brad Pitt. Yeah.
All right.
It's a good game. And
Esports
I think
Rockstars, your movie recommendation podcast. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but I think that's something similar to football, or as you like to call it, soccer. So I can see that movie there as well, because a lot of scouts, they base their scouting on their own beliefs, you know, like the old school mentality, like this guy is fast or he can dribble, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, there was a Danish team called Midtjylland, I think. I don't know how to pronounce them. And they started to play Moneyball as well. So they just bought players based on statistics. And they became the champion in Denmark, actually, and played Champions League for a couple of seasons. So maybe that's something interesting for you to look up.
I'll look into it, for sure.
So would you say our team is built based on Moneyball, like on statistics?
I mean, it's built on a combination of both. Like, as much as I love statistics, you know, one of the things I've heard said, and that I sort of like to repeat, is numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. Mm-hmm. So you can pore over the numbers all you want, and they can tell you a lot. But ultimately, if you look at the numbers and they don't agree with the product that you see out on the field, or the rift, or the pitch, or whatever, you know, you have to reassess what you're looking at. Your numbers are wrong, or you're looking at the game wrong, or whatever it is. And so you still have to watch the game and understand the game on an intuitive level to know the whole story. Yeah.
Yeah. You already outed yourself as a sci-fi nerd. Can you imagine a future where you got this robot in the basement, where you get this artificial intelligence, this deep learning stuff, which completely does your job?
I mean, I think that's kind of a fact of life for just about every profession these days, is that at some point, in some way, artificial intelligence and, you know, automation can take over those jobs.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you know, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story, you know. And for that whole story part, I think you still need that human part of just intuition and experience, which computers
absolutely
still can't learn yet. Not yet. But maybe in the future. But
for sure.
What do you think of the meta as a assistant coach and analyst?
I like parts of it.
Don't leak stuff, okay?
Okay, obviously I wouldn't be leaking any strategies. I'm not that stupid, but
okay.
I like parts of it, and I don't as much like other parts of it. Like, for example. I like more variety in the bot lane. I like that you can play things like Vlad or Mordekaiser or Aurelia or whatever else, in the bot lane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that it's to the exclusion of most marksmen and ADCs. I don't like the gold funnel strat at all. I think that needs to go way out the window. I think that needs to go back to the hell that it crawled out of. I think that it's unhealthy for the game. I think that 2 supports in one game and essentially everybody or more than 2 supports in some cases, but I mean 2 like non-farming characters in one game and everybody focused on enabling one person is just really bad. And I think that at the end of the day, so many of those games just come down to one coin flip that's often decided by one of the teams making a mistake. So I just think that it's very awful for the game overall.
Yeah, but that mistake thing, I mean, there were even worse meters where 2 teams were just farming up until like 60 minutes. And then you were just waiting who does the first mistake, and then it's over. I think that wasn't healthy either.
Oh yeah, I know, but honestly, I think this is worse because like in those situations there was comeback potential, right? But then just like look at the Fnatic versus Schalke game, right? Schalke's 8K up and they make one minor mistake. They reset when they shouldn't have. They lost tempo. And Fnatic take a Baron, and they're still like 6K behind at that point. They don't even have to kill anybody for the Baron. And then they literally just run it down mid and end the game 5v5. That's not healthy. That's not good.
Yeah, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, cool. So another question I have is, since you're American, you're pretty much familiar with franchising.
Yes.
And also the mechanics of it. So what do you think of franchising in League? I mean, there's like mechanics like tanking or stuff like that, which obviously doesn't make too much sense for League since there's no draft system behind it. But what's your opinion on the whole franchising topic?
Well, I mean, when it functions properly, I prefer the European tiered system, But I think in the current esports environment and in the current economic environment, it's just not really possible to have that, especially when other regions that you're competing with for talent are franchising, like China and NA. And so you won't have the money because it's not a stable investment. The thing about the major leagues is, first off, the teams that spend tons of money in the Premier League and La Liga and the Bundesliga, right? They, Bayern and Borussia Dortmund and Barcelona and Manchester City, they're not worried about being relegated.
I don't think that you can put them all in one line. I think Barcelona and Manchester are spending a lot more than the German.
Oh, I know, but like but those are the teams that they all were dominant in their leagues this past season. That's why I brought them up.
They never saved. They could get relegated.
They could, but so that's part of it. But the second thing is the teams that get relegated, they get parachute payments. They have huge existing fan bases that let them know that they're going to still be able to, have an income. The leagues themselves have TV deals and viewership, streaming deals. So there's all this money and stabilization that allows teams to feel safe in their financial security, even if they get relegated. And that just doesn't exist in League. Like, you got demoted to Challenger. Like, look at SK Gaming, for example. They were a fixture in the League of Legends scene for years. And then they got relegated, and a split later or 2 splits later, they were gone.
But I don't think that's because of the money, but that's another topic. But
I mean, it's not, it's as much, but like, imagine if, there was money in the Challenger scene, right? And SK had felt like they could keep investing in their team, and like there was still safe money to be made. They wouldn't have just dropped out.
Yeah, but the first season, I think, where they were in Challenger, they had a pretty good team, or not? They had Mujin and didn't have the Tal as well, I think.
You're thinking of Team RB.
No,
that had
no.
Mujin and Tall.
They had Koreans or not? 2 Koreans in Challenger.
On their Challenger roster.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they had 2 Koreans in the first season of Challenger. Okay, look it up as an analyst. Let's see your speed.
Analyze this, man. Analyze it now.
I don't see anything about any Koreans.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they had 2 Koreans in the first season of Challenger.
Okay, they had Ruin. They had Ruin for like a couple of months. And then, that's the only one I see is they had Ruin at one point.
Okay. Didn't they have 2? Okay, then I mixed it up with Red Bull maybe. But I mean, yeah. I don't think that's because they didn't have any money or stuff like that. Or
well, no. It's not that they didn't. It's not that they didn't have any money, right? But like as an organization, there's no point sitting in Challenger for 2, 3, 4 splits. Whereas a team that gets relegated from the Premier League to the Championship, they can sit there for 5, 10 years and then make their way back to the Premier League.
Maybe, but the best example right now, I think it's here in Hamburg, the HSV,
Yeah.
They got relegated, and they have to cut so many players now, and it will be a tough road going back to Bundesliga.
I'm not saying it's an easy road back.
No, I'm not saying that, but I mean, if Hamburg is staying in the second league for 2 or 3 seasons, you can bet that they will have problems because the stadium is huge, so fans will leave if they are not getting back to first league. So I see the same problems there, and I mean the TV money is less, etc. And
the money is less, but it's still existent. You're in the Challenger series, you're not making anything.
I'm not sure how much money there is in the Challenger scene, but yeah, I guess there's no Challenger scene anymore, anyways. So
yeah, it doesn't exist anyways.
So what about mechanics like tanking? You think teams will tank in the franchise system? Like, let's say half the split, they realize, we will do nothing, and they just kick everybody and then save money for the next split?
I don't think they'll save money because I know, if I recall correctly from like reading over the rules and stuff, if you finish poorly or have poor conduct, Ride can actually, and the other teams can still kick you.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if there was a draft, then tanking is a legitimate strategy. I think that what we might see though is, teams struggling. They might bench their veterans to test out newer, younger players to see if if any of them are ready to play now, or just to give them experience that they might be able to use in the future.
Yeah. So regarding draft system, do you think there will be a legit draft system in the future?
I mean, if we ever get to a point where there's a legitimate pipeline that these guys are coming out of that isn't directly associated with the team, so like they're not coming off of TSM Academy or whatever. They're coming out of Ohio State University or something, and they need to be picked up by teams every year. And there's enough of a turnover that's necessary, then okay, I could see it. But I don't think that the system really fits with League. I don't think we'll ever see it.
What about Euro with the national leagues?
I mean, maybe it would be like that. But honestly, I don't think so, because I just don't think that there's enough roster turnover and enough consistent new blood to justify a year-by-year draft.
Maybe. Like an open draft, I'm not sure. Like everyone can apply and then...
Yeah, I'm just not sure that makes any sense.
Okay.
All right, Cody. Let's talk about what happened recently at Team ROCCAT at the European LCS the last weekend.
Okay, so I mean, I guess we should start with it was a bit of a rough week of scrims. It was a bit trying. We were struggling to sort of figure out where we wanted to go, what direction we wanted to go stylistically, and whatnot. But we sort of managed to start to sort it out by the end of the week. So we actually, much to my surprise at the time, we felt kind of decent going into the Vitality game because we'd managed to sort it out. And I mean, obviously that game was just a mess in a lot of ways. Started strong. Memento got 5 straight kills, I think it was.
Yep. I think so.
And, we had a huge lead, and then we threw at the Baron fight where the Darius got a triple kill. And then eventually, that was of the 4 games I've been at LCS so far, that was by far the craziest of those games. It was it was the most ridiculous ending I can recall in a while. Since our previous Vitality game, actually, since the one where we got backdoored. So it was a little bit of vengeance as well.
But wasn't that also the strategy by picking an ADC that you win in late game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was part of it. Certainly, we always knew when we picked that comp that we had late game. And I think it was said even before the game was finished loading by one of the players, hey, just keep it calm early. But obviously, we managed to get ahead early, rather unexpectedly, just by sheer, luck. I don't want to say luck, but, it was a lot of buffoonery from Vitality that let us get there. And
yeah, that's our first win. And we won on a Friday, which is a surprise.
Yeah. But I mean, even with once you're ahead like that, even if you're playing a scaling composition, you should be able to close out cleanly. We shouldn't have had to play such a ridiculous game in order to do that.
So what about the second game?
I mean, the second game was obviously a lot rougher, but in some strange way, I think Freddie and I were actually both happier with how that game went, end to end. Obviously not with the result, but in terms of the quality of our play, despite falling behind, we really were able to play well from behind and keep the game going, and we never felt like we were out of it. There's one point when we were reviewing the VOD where it's we were basically inches from acing them and getting Baron. And then we would have been able to win that game, which is disappointing. But again, it's you can't make the mistakes that we made really in either of those games and expect to win. And we got lucky winning one after a rough week. And I mean, obviously I was very happy at the time. But at this point, it's we know what we did wrong. We know the problems that we have. We know that sometimes we aren't the best in some ways, and we have to. I'm just going to avoid specifics because I don't want to give out any information.
Yes.
But we know our problems, and it's about moving forwards. And even though we went 1-1, which is a decent result, trying to fix them so that we can have 2-0 weeks, or we can have clean wins like we did against H2K.
So do you predict a 2-0 week this week?
I mean, I would certainly like to think so. I think that we're a better team than Giants, and I think that given the form Splice are in, they're struggling a lot, and I think we're in better form than them.
Yeah. But didn't we boost them last year as well? They won I think the winning streak at the end, it was based on us, right?
Oh, yeah, no, it was the second half of last split. They were very, very good.
Yeah.
But they're 0-4 right now, so I think that we're in better form than them, even though I think the Splice guys are a much better team than they're showing right now. But I think if we can take advantage of their poor form, I think, we can definitely get a 2-0 this week.
Cool. So one last question. Who's the most improved player on Team Rocket for you to split?
I mean, again, it's got to be Hiku. I think that he has really, really started to come into his own as a player. He always had that potential there, but he really needed to get his confidence together, get his confidence up, and also just learn how to work better within a team. And he still has some things to work on as a player, as a team, as a communicator in game. But, he's getting there. And I think if and when he hits his potential, which I think he definitely will, he can be a top 2-3 ADC in Europe. I think he's already pretty close to that, actually.
So where do you see his ceiling?
His ceiling is one of the top 80 carries in Europe. Absolutely.
Okay. And how does he handle the meta?
Very well, actually. He is remarkably quick at learning new champions. he can play 1 or 2 games of them the day before and just come into scrims the next day and dominate on them.
Cody, thanks very much.
Thank you
for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
And we're really looking forward to the next weekend, and we hope you good luck.
Thank you.
And see you in the next days.
Yep. See you in the next days.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
To our listeners' feedback, you can ask us questions via hashtag ESPORTS ROCSTARS, and Skyrex posted, did you guys ever think that Rengar may be the representation of ROCCAT in LoL? I think he probably talks about the headset.
No. He talks about the...
Yeah, he talks about the champion, but I think he...
No, because it's kind of like the lion head.
Oh, yeah. It's
the tiger head.
He looks like the ROCCAT logo, the lion head. And we
tiger.
also...
It's a tiger.
It's a tiger. And we also... Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have the hair. He's a tiger. And he also talks about the headset, the ROCCAT Rengar.
No, there's no connection between those two.
No, it just sounds almost perfectly like it.
No connection between.
All right, guys. Please follow ROCCAT on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Your questions to us, hashtag esports rockstars. Please give us an iTunes rating. And you can listen to us via YouTube, Spotify, and of course, the podcast app of your choice. For this week, we say goodbye, Fred and Tien. Bye-bye.
Bye.